Mamuina Akwaba at the back into TV. Let's say for the case between Honorable Ken Ofori Attah, the former finance minister versus the state in Pimana Epemso, Enyasem Kitwana. Finally, the government spokesperson, Honorable Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, Ababonta Habechechim concerning how the Attorney General Dominic Akutinga Yene, a person Honorable Ken Ofori Attah, at the Naba Ghana Memha. Now, first of all, beside the government spokesperson, Sintino, the case between Wamne Honorable Ken Ofori Attah, where the NDC party involved in the escape of Honorable Ken Ofori Attah and Anna. And on answer question, Sintino, essentially John Dramani Mahama came into power on the 7th of January 2025 and now back into power. That's Abreno. But Honorable Ken Ofori Attah so fi country numkoye at the 4th of January and of fi country numkoye. I tell for yourself because we party say essentially John Dramani Mahama had no power on the 4th of January. And it's now Honorable Ken Ofori Attah a fan who done the country nim. I tell for yourself because the government spokesperson Honorable Felix Ofosu-Kwakye Ashoga for in Asintino. The Attorney General and Minister for Justice the name of Guakum the Dinding. I tell for yourself because say finally to me the Honorable Ken Ofori Attah expedition or Abeduga na memha. Nama to tune in Semna if he's guilty in Kwandia and running in the bedi, but if he's not guilty there, but me offer no trotrosa Aquanya Sam Ketwa. And it's yes, we put in some Honorable Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, honor the Minister for Government Spokesperson Ebano Ekanodi to Madam
charges that the special prosecutor has leveled against him. That has happened. The Attorney General again on Monday disclosed. Oh, sorry, last week Friday, disclosed that indeed he has made that extradition request and that he expects that the process will be gone through by the American authorities and then Ofori Attah will come back. Beyond that, there's nothing untoward that has happened. Of course, we all wish that Mr. Ofori Attah was available as others have been available for him to be taken through due process. Because mind you, no matter what you suspect somebody to have done, the law says that you have to go through a certain process, and that is important. So that persons who have not done any wrong are not falsely punished or are not wrongly punished, which will be a travesty. It will be a terrible tragedy to put an innocent man in prison or impose any form of punishment on him when he has not done any wrong. So even if you think the person has done wrong, you must take him through the due process. As far as government is concerned, due process is being applied. Of course, there can be criticism of how slow it has been. There can be criticism of the special prosecutor's approach. Like all other public officials, they are subject to public scrutiny. So the public is allowed to express their views on their work. But as far as government is concerned, on the Ken Ofori Attah matter, we have done what has to be done, which is to make a formal extradition request once the proper processes have been triggered by the special prosecutor.
Is this political persecution or a genuine fight against corruption?
Again, how can Ken Ofori Attah shout political persecution? To begin with, the person doing the prosecution was an appointee of President Akufo-Addo. It was his cousin, President Akufo-Addo, who appointed the special prosecutor, not so. And the MBB was not known to appoint adversaries to key positions like that. So we also know about the special prosecutor's proximity to other relatives of Mr. Ken Ofori Attah. So on what basis are they shouting persecution? Indeed, it is not this government that is trying or that is seeking to prosecute Mr. Ken Ofori Attah. I'm aware that the Attorney General is looking into other matters relating to him, but we've not reached a point where you can say that you are going to prosecute him yet. But as we speak, the 78 charges that have been leveled against him have been brought against him by the special prosecutor, who is an independent entity created by Ken Ofori Attah's cousin, President Akufo-Addo. On what basis then?
I mean, I see what you're doing, yes, but so we cannot extricate the government of the process.
How so can we not be extricated? You tell me. How so? The people claiming persecution. And indeed, when Ken Ofori Attah was in power as finance minister, were members of the NDC not put before court. And why is he special? What is special about him? Why? Since the Fourth Republic began, or even before then, have several former public officials not gone through the same process that he is going through? Why would he single himself up? What is he being persecuted for? Who is doing the prosecution?
Well, because he's a political opponent.
No, I'm saying that. So when Ken Ofori Attah's cousin, President Akufo-Addo, and Godfrey Dame put the light of Ato Forson before courts, what were they doing? Was Ato Forson not the leading personality in parliament for the NDC at the time? So what were they doing? Were they persecuting him or were they prosecuting him? If they can prosecute an opponent and there's no persecution, why should they be treated differently? We cannot paint different folks with different strokes. You understand me? And I don't think that it is proper that we entertain this sort of thing. It is a baseless accusation that has no merit, and same has to be dismissed.
Does this government see an extradition happening next year?
Well, at this moment, it's entirely in the hands of the U.S. authorities. I have seen people attempt to raise persecutions. I don't think American authorities simply will merge on their responsibilities merely because we shout persecution. I mean, they know for a fact that Ghana is an open democratic society. They know that we have a time-tested judicial legal system, and they have representatives in this country. So merely shouting persecution does not absorb one from being held to account. We believe that the right things have been done on the part of government, and therefore nothing stops the American authorities from extraditing Mr. Ken Ofori Attah. But of course, we agree that being a law-abiding society themselves, they will also go through certain processes to ensure that all the boxes are ticked. And once that happens, I'm sure that Mr. Ofori Attah will be well on his way to Ghana to answer the charges that have been brought against him by the special prosecutor.
3 petitions against the special prosecutor, Kisia Jabing, 7 of those against the chairpersons of the Electoral Commission. Where is this government with that?
Well, as I indicated in a statement a couple of weeks ago, all 10 petitions have been forwarded to the Chief Justice. That is what Article 146 says, and the OSP's own act says should be done. That is where government's role ends in this particular matter. So the ball is now in the court of the Chief Justice to take the necessary steps going forward. Yeah.
It is easy to conclude that the current government may be using the same playbook of the previous government in kicking out Madam Charlotte Osei. Is that what you're doing? Absolutely not.
Of course, Madam Jimensa and the deputies have come under criticism from various quarters. In fact, lately they've even been criticized by the MPP. You see, all public office holders are subject to scrutiny. My performance as Minister for Government Communication is subject to public scrutiny. People can have their opinions about my performance. That is entirely separate from being held to account for alleged wrongdoing. That is why the Constitution makes it possible for persons who think they have a basis to demand the removal of these entities to go through a certain process. That process is put in place to ensure that the claims against the persons are looked into through a fair process. And then if it is determined that there is merit in it, it is upheld. If not, it is thrown away. Like happened in the case of Justice Yoni Kolendi a couple of weeks ago. Somebody brought a petition. The process was triggered. The Chief Justice looked into it. Then no cause was found to carry it forward any further. And it was dismissed. You see, so this government does not have a difficulty. Madam Jimensa was in office when you won, secured arguably the largest margin of victory ever under the Fourth Republic. So really, what really is there to antagonize her over? Nothing. Of course, it doesn't mean that persons within the NDC or without it do not have the right to criticize if they think that's
true. Is the NDC going after Jimensa?
As far as I know, the NDC has not brought a petition against Jimensa. The people who have petitioned are identifiable people. When the time comes, I'm sure we will know who accusers are, and so we have an opportunity to confront them. But the NDC has not presented any petition against Madam Jimensa or the special prosecutor or anybody else for their removal, despite the fact that we had serious misgivings about some of the things that were happening under her watch, under this, and we were entitled as a group to voice those concerns because we were a stakeholder in the elections. And if we find that there are processes that are being undertaken that unfairly disadvantage us or undermine the credibility of the process, we have the right to voice those concerns, and we did so without fear or favor. I'm sure going forward we will do so again if we find that there's anything untoward happening at the EC. And she herself surely would understand that political parties have the right to express their views on the process.
What happened to the petition against the now Chief Justice, Paul Bafuboni?
Well, I may have to check. First of all, if there's a petition. As far as I know, and I'm choosing my words carefully, I do not have any briefing that there's any petition against.
At all?
Absolutely. Once I have that indication, I'm sure the people of Ghana will know. Yes.
But the Minority Caucus in Parliament had written to the government invoking the Right to Information Bill, seeking what processes had taken place since your government received a petition.
Well, again, I would have to see that RTI request. I have not cited it, so I'm not able to speak to it.
I see. Is that why the minority has not received any response at all?
But I'm saying that
because you haven't seen it.
I have not seen any RTI request. Normally, if there are RTI requests, I would see them. Okay. There are a couple that I have seen that we've responded to. I have not seen this one. If I have any briefing at all on the subject. I'm sure the public will be kept apprised to the extent that the law allows it. Yeah.
Your office receives the petitions as well?
No, it will be addressed to a certain quarter, but I am likely to see because I speak for government. So if a decision were to be taken on it, I would know for purposes of being able to engage the people of Ghana on it. Yes.
Do you worry about those who think that you may be covering up something? That you may be preventing the process from going forward?
Order for way any breaking news, if we join the money, Mama Nakachi,